Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Marta, and today I'm joined by one of my team members. Her name is Tessa. Tessa will be helping us in the chat. So please, if during the presentation you have any questions or any comments, please pop them in the chat, because we will have some time at the end to go through questions and comments and stuff. And Tessa will be helping with that. If by any chance we don't have time to go through all the questions, don't worry, there will be no unanswered questions. We will reach out to you and with your contact details and stuff that you will provide us, or you have provided us, and answer any questions that might be pending. So don't worry about that. And without any further ado, I think let's start. Just one fair warning, my first language is not English, so I might mispronounce some words, so apologies for that. And this session will be recorded and uploaded in YouTube, so if there is at any point you have to leave or you kind of stay for the whole session, it will be available for you to finish that online later on. So I would like to know where everybody's connecting from. So just pop it in the chat where you're from and what your background as well. I think it would be nice to see if you're a parent or if you're a professional, if you are working in a school that is obviously preparing for the intake of new students and learners. Or if you are a nursery or an early years provider and you're also preparing for some exiting children and families. That's very interesting. Parent from London, a couple of professionals from Jersey, Channel Islands. Wow, that's far away. I'm in London. I haven't said that before. And I'm Spanish. From Essex. Autism project worker, Greenwich, advisory teacher for local authority, Senko. Yeah, I think I can see there's a little bit of mix. So parents and professionals, this is great. So we will kind of try and touch all the different aspects and all the different Amazing. Thank you so much for participating in the chat, because it makes me feel less alone because I cannot see you. And so it's quite comforting to see that everybody is out there. Specialist teacher 0 to 5. Amazing. Okay, so let's crack on. So today we're going to be talking about managing transitions from early years provisions to schools. So we've got a couple of objectives. So we will be doing a short introduction so you guys know who we are and what we're all about. And then we will talk about the benefits of supporting transitions. Some of them were probably quite obvious. Some others might be something that you haven't thought about. And then we will go straight into strategies to support and divided in 3 main aspects, which are planning ahead, individualizing, and adapting the environment. And then we will do a little summary to kind of discuss everything that we spoke about. So introduction, so who are we? So I'm the head of Beyond Autism Early Years. So Early Years is a wider organization. We have a primary school, a secondary school, and a couple of post-19 hubs. We're based in London. But we also have an outreach service that kind of supports the whole of the UK. Our early years service is a little bit different. So we support parents with their children. So it's not a drop-off office. Sorry, it's not a drop-off service in terms of like a nursery or any other early years provision. It's more of a family workshop. So it's very interesting because we get to see the family side of things a lot closer than other professionals get to see. We see families once or twice a week, and we've had a number of our children that then have transitioned to our primary school, but normally our children transition to a wide range of provisions and settings across London and sometimes outside of London. At the moment, we have children coming from 12 different boroughs in London, and we're based in Bromley. So please, if you have any family that might be interested in our service, we see children from 20 months to 5 years, and it's free. Let's see. And we have a little bit talked about who are you, but if you want to comment, like what are you most interested in or what you want to get from this session, that would be also really good to say in the chat. But hopefully we will touch everything. So talking a little bit about transitions. Transitions are an inevitable part of life. Some of them are small processes, some of them are big processes like moving houses, or for example the one that we were talking about, which is going from an earlier setting to a school setting, or changing educational settings, or starting a new job. Autistic individuals, and I think this word is very important, may react to change with elevated levels of distress or become extremely anxious. We know that not two autistic individuals are the same. So we shouldn't be assuming that this transition is going to be difficult, because for some children and learners is not going to be something that they will find difficult. And this is where planning ahead is so important. It's about not assuming things and not having things and doing things just because it's part of the process. And transitioning from early years to a school is just a part of life. So it's something that is inevitable. Oops, I think I just went through one. Yes, so the benefits. So there are many benefits, but I think the main ones are social development, emotional benefits, cognitive growth, and safeguarding benefits. So social development is about supporting communication, empathy. Empathy might not look like a very obvious one, but when we talk about transitions, it's a great opportunity to say, to use social stories, for example, and kind of normalize things that they might be feeling, like anxiety and things like that, to say lots of people feel anxious when changes are coming. So that's why I decided to add empathy, because it depends on how we talk about emotions and stuff. Provides opportunities for social commentary if it's appropriate for the child or the learner, and supports access to social spaces with peers and adults. So the case that we're talking about is quite obvious. Emotional benefits, so obviously helping managing stress and anxiety, also about self-expression and emotional regulation. So some schools work with sons of regulation, for example. That's quite a common emotional regulation curriculum. So it might be a good idea to see when you do your transition if the child has already been exposed to it, if not, and what their understanding is like, to see if you can utilize that. Cognitive growth, so stimulates comprehension, encourages decision-making and critical thinking, supports access to learning opportunities, obviously, and then safeguarding benefits, so ensures that information is shared effectively between provisions, but also between parents and provisions. So strategies to support, like we said, we're going to divide them in 3 main ones. So planning ahead, individualizing, and adapting the environment. Let's go on it. So planning ahead is all about being proactive rather than reactive. So the focus is on skills teaching and preparing the individual and the family for the upcoming event. And I think preparing the family is a very important factor that sometimes when we're doing transition plans, sometimes provision forget about, because the same way that it can be a quite stressful and anxiety-provoking situation for the child is also for the family. So when we do the plan, it's very, very important when planning ahead to talk with the parents and gather their own emotional state and and also like what are they capability is like in terms of like what the availability is like. We work very closely with parents, and we see lots of settings imposing a transition plan that is part of their admissions process, and it's the same for everyone. And they assume that because the child is autistic or they have SEN needs, they need to do a specific transition plan. But for example, the parents need to be available for like to do a transition plan for the whole of September, and maybe for like that whole month, the child is only attending the school for 1 hour a day. And so what's the impact on the family in that case? And is it actually doable for the family, or is it going to cause more harm than good? Because while it makes sense to have the child only going to school one hour per day, is the parent available to do that, or is the parent going to have to need the grandparents to drop off and pick up and then take them to their house instead of the family home? So that's also like another transition that you add in on top of the school transition, because you're changing the routine that the child has got at home. And so it's all about finding that balance, and that so that's why communication is very, very important with the families. So it's all about being proactive, and hopefully by that we will see less changes, so less chances of behaviors that challenge. And it's very, very important to have a school-wide transition protocol, but it's not something that should be, standardized and always the same. So that links to the next point, which will be individualizing. So the school-wide transition protocol. So this is kind of like what we have in Beyond Autism, and it works quite well. So first we would do a video call with the parents, the carers, and the current early years professionals that are involved with the child. It might be all together in one call, or it might be that we do the provision on a different call if there's anything that needs to be discussed separate. I would add, if there's any other professionals involved that are relevant for the child, it would be good to also talk to the parents and see if they want to include anyone else. Then we will do a home visit or a nursery visit, sometimes if available and possible both. So in that meeting, we will discuss a date with the relevant people, so parents and teachers, and then 2 members of our staff would attend, and the scheduled date will be added to the calendar so everybody knows, and kind of like works out in terms of like staffing levels and everything, both for our setting and the other setting. And then the third one would be for the child to spend at least half a day in our school, and then considering depending on learners' needs and stuff. So it might be that when we do our plan, we need to say, instead of starting with half a day, we start with like a couple of hours, and then instead of doing at least just one, we do like multiple. So depends on the needs of the child. But this is like the minimum that we would do. So again, that would be put in the calendar, because it needs to be, planned in terms of like staffing levels, but also in terms of like when the quieter times of the day are, and what children are in, what children are out. So all of those things need to be put in consideration, and what spaces around the school are available. Arrange a drop-off and pick up with the parents, and how that needs to look like. Aim for the first visit to the school to be accompanied by at least 1 nominated nursery staff, if possible. And we always try to extend that invitation to the nursery staff, because we understand that brings consistency and familiarity to the child. And also, like, the parents will be there, but and it's also a really great opportunity for the person who works with the child on a one-to-one basis, or the one who supports them most during their time at nursery, to have time in person to talk to the team that are gonna taking that child on in the school. If more transitions are needed, then we try and facilitate that where possible. Now we're going to break down like what each part of the transition looks like. So I've put like a summary of questions that we would do during the video call. Some of them are kind of like things like, what does your child like and dislike? How do they communicate? Any important medical or specific needs? Any social care involvement? And so some of these questions we might have already have the answer in all of the paperwork that comes with the child, but it's always good to kind of like review those questions to see if they're up to date, because sometimes we have children that come with like documents that are a bit out of date, or like maybe something has happened, like a new development that is not reflected in any of the papers. So it's always good to go through these questions and things. And when your child is angry or upset, how do they normally express themselves? Is your child toilet trained? So all of these things are very, very important to ask. I think it's one of the main ones is, like we were saying before, like what's your availability for a transition plan? Because sometimes we make our own plans and then we realize that parents just cannot be, available to not work for an extended period of time, or we don't want to put the parents or the family in a position of vulnerability because of our transition plan. And obviously we need to look at the family as a whole picture and see if like our transition plan is going to unbalance other things in their life and their routines and everything. So it's very, very important to hear what they have to say. At this point, we would not get the child involved yet, unless the parents would like to. But that's also something that we can discuss with the parents, and it might be appropriate to have an interview with the child as well, and like get some of their ideas and like if it's relevant. And then a very important question as well is that what is going well in nursery at the nursery, and what routines does he have in nursery that we may be able to mimic during the transition period, to just give the child a bit of familiarity with things that they already know. And like again, like thinking about transitions as in like when we do a transition to a new setting, we obviously do the big transition, which is like a new environment, new people, new everything. But there's millions of small transitions that we can do more gradually. So like, for example, if the child is used to coming in the morning and then they have a snack, that's something that we can mimic during the transition period. If they're used to like when they, we see children with all these different types of like routines and things. So if the child is used to like when mom and dad drop him off in the car, the adult goes to pick them up in the parking lot, and they do a little song or a little dance, and then they are ready to go in. Then we will mimic the same with our stuff. So it's very, very important to know what are those kind of like little comforting routines and things that the child has got in place that are working, that we can very easily mimic or reproduce in our setting, just to give that comfort and that child. Again, if there's any like transition objects or comforting objects that the child wants to bring, that's also a great idea. And then we would do. So then when we go to the child's setting, then we will do a couple of observations. So we will see how they respond to instructions, what the routines, important routines are. So like, for example, eating and toileting, what the interactions with others are, what communication they're using, what their preferred activities. It might be that we identify that a child has a very preferred object in nursery, and turns out that we also have it in the school, so we might want to have it ready and available when they come. Like we've had that situation many times where like a child comes to our setting and they go straight to like a train or a car, and the mom says like, oh, we've got that at home. Oh, he really likes it. And it really helps settle them. And the idea would be like, can we be proactive about that? And yes, sometimes it's just going to be a chance, and like you're not going to come up with like, my child really likes a red bus, and it's like, oh, I've got it. But there might be things that you observe in the nursery that you can then utilize, or even if the nursery assistant is coming with the child to the setting, to the school for the first time, you might ask her, like, bring any symbols, anything that you normally use with him that we can then use in our setting. Preferred activities again, like and how behaviors are managed, what things that work, so like things for the escalation that works for the child, or maybe co-regulating strategies that work are very, very important. So how does the child self-soothes themselves, so we can offer that or make sure that that's in place, and how the child soothes with others. That's very, very, very important. And then using timetables and visuals, so we can be as consistent as possible with what the child already knows. And again, it's a good opportunity to observe if there are any risk assessments that need to be put in place for the child to make sure that they're safe and other children are safe, and etc. And now we go to the second part, which is the individualizing. So there's no strategy fits all. So every person is unique, therefore every autistic person is unique. And it's all about creating a person-centered plan. So that means that what we have done until now is gather all the evidence and all the knowledge that we need in order to then make the plan and then individualize what we need to do with the specific child. And then there's a couple of key questions that we need to ask ourselves. So how can I adapt a social story for their best understanding? Is it a full social story relevant, or can I just provide like a visual timetable or like pictures of the people that they're going to see, the places that they're going to see? So what is relevant for the child's understanding? And then what activities I'm going to use, what toys I'm going to offer, what spaces are going to be available, any familiar routines from nursery, any comforting objects or transition objects that the child can bring, or any symbols that the child can bring that are familiar to them. And then the last one is adapt the environment. So we want to set up the learner to success. So obviously 100% we're not looking at changing the individual, we're looking at changing the environment and what's around them to make it accessible and so they can be successful. We want to meet individual needs, because obviously that would help us to minimize behaviors that challenge anxiety and negative situations for the learner. And again, there's key questions that we need to be asking ourselves. So again, what visuals and symbols can be incorporated to make the environment more accessible and familiar? Any comforting, like even background music that can be played, any space that might be more successful. So if children are quite active, we might want to do a transition space to be the soft play that we have in the classroom. If there are more like sensory seeking, can we go to the sensory room? Or if they like to like run around and like do like more physical, and we don't have a soft play available, can we go to the playground? So all those kind of like things. And then can the visits be scheduled during quiet days of the week? And any risk that needs to be assessed and planned against to ensure the safety in the school. And then once everything is done and we have finalized the transition and the child is settled and happy at school, because that's exactly what we want, it's very, very important to review and update any relevant paperwork or anything. So we need to review internally to see how it's gone with like the staff that was involved, but also it's very important to gather feedback from the previous setting and from the parents, because that's the key information that will help us be better, basically. So we're teachers, so we always talk about like waggle and what even better if, all of these things. So for transitions is exactly the same. And anything that needs to be changed will be implemented in your school-wide transition protocol or in any other relevant document. So it's very, very important. And obviously, as a parent, so when you are when your child is accessing a new school, so you want to ask the school in advance, like, what's your transition protocol and how we're going to individualize this to my child. I think that's your key question for when your child is transitioning in a setting. And as a nursery, again, it's communicating what's your inset, what's your transition for incoming children, what's our transition protocol for our exiting children, and how can we like work them together. And then that was all. As a summary, so we would say like there are many benefits, obviously, that we spoke about supporting learners with transitions, social development, emotional, cognitive, and safeguarding. The strategies to support, we said that we broke them down in 3 main aspects. So plan ahead, individualize, and adapt the environment. When planning ahead, we talked about having an effective school-wide transition protocol that includes the learner's current setting, and the parents and the carers and the learner's voice as well. When individualizing and adapting the environment, it is very important to analyze the information that we have gathered before when we were planning ahead, and create a person-centered plan. And lastly, we need to designate the time to reflect on each transition and have a system to gather the feedback from different people involved and different professionals involved, because that's very important to improve our school-wide protocol for transitions if it's needed. Thank you so much. It's always very difficult to talk when you cannot see people. I hope it was quite informative, and I didn't make it too boring. So in the chat, I can see one question. So it's, are transitions protocols only for children with EHCPs? The answer is it really depends on the school, but my opinion is that there should always be a transition protocol, because we've got children that come from very different settings, very different circumstances, and unless we have a protocol for everyone, we will not know if we are hitting the right system with every single child. Obviously, I would say it's fundamentally important for children with EHCPs. But if you're a parent and you're worried about a transition, you can always ask for to be included in that protocol as well, and to discuss like what are the needs of your child. Or again, like if you're an early years provision and you think that it's relevant for your child, I think it would be very, very important as well to have that open conversation with the school. We've got another question. So, are there standardized templates for plans? I do not have that answer. I know that we have a template in our school. I would be surprised if it's not standardized in other schools, but I think it's done more on a like school by school basis. But it's always good to see and reach out to other schools if yours doesn't have one, to see what's their plan and what's their. But we're more than happy to share our templates and things if you think they're going to be useful. So yeah, pop that in the chat as well, and let us know, or message us. You've got our contact details. We're more than happy to share that. I don't see it. There's any more questions. So thank you so much, everyone. And I'm going to go to the very last slide. So our next session is going to be on the 7th of May, and it's going to be with Carrie. She's one of our lovely outreach consultants, and she's going to be talking about transitions into schools, which is going to be quite good as a complement to this training. Okay, So thank you, everyone. You've got a QR code there if you want to having a quick access. If not, again, this recording is going to be available on YouTube, so you can watch it again. Okay. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a good day.